The unthinkable has happened. I've run out of space. No more space left for my vinyl collection. So, that's a good enough reason to do an updated vinyl collection video. Hope you can join me for this. So yes, I have run out of space in my storage. I can't get any more storage at this point in time. So it's time for me to look through my record collection and show you what I've got. I always enjoy looking through someone else's vinyl collection because I'm nosy, and also because I am a huge fanatic about all things music. So grab yourself a brew and let's start getting on with them records. I'm going to go through all my record collection as it stands in 2021 in July, as we are now at the time of this recording. So we start off with A, and I've only got one record in A, which is Atlantic Soul. I'm a huge soul fan, and this has got some absolute classic Stax and Atlantic songs such as Otis Redding, Arthur Conley, Sam and Dave, Percy Sledge, Benny King, absolute essential soul record collection there. Then we're into the Beatles, the first of the bands in this collection that I'd really like to get a full set of eventually. The Beatles records are always super expensive, so I rarely get a chance to get one, but it's going to take me a few years, but hopefully over the years I will acquire all of their collection, all their back catalogue, starting with Please Please Me. Absolutely love this album. This was donated to me by my father-in-law. From now on, whenever it's something from my father-in-law, I will call it the O'Grady collection. So this is the first from the O'Grady collection. And what I love about this, it's in mono and it really pops out of the speakers. It's a real mode of intent, this album, really introducing the world to the Beatles in the most exciting way. Then, you're not having deja vu. It's another copy of Please Please Me from the O'Grady collection. I don't know why he had two, but he gifted them both to me, which I was very, very happy about. Then we have my most recent acquisition of the Beatles, Help, which I got from my good friend Di at work, who donated this to the collection. Thank you so much, Di. Great album again. It's probably the last of their kind of I Love You, I Want to Hold Your Hand kind of albums before they went a bit more experimental. There's a tiny bit of experimentation on this one, but it's the last of those early Beatles albums, and I love it. Next up, we have Rubber Soul, where things really changed for the Beatles. This is a modern version, and I got this, I believe, from the Beatles Museum in Liverpool, which if you're ever up this way, you definitely have to go and visit. It's a must visit location, the Beatles album in Liverpool on the Tate Docks. Liverpool Docks even. Then we have my ultimate favourite Beatles album, Revolver. Much prefer this one to Sgt. Pepper, although Sgt. Pepper is obviously much more historically important. But yeah, Revolver is one of those albums that has no bad song on it, and it has my favourite song by the Beatles as well, Tomorrow Never Knows, which ends it. Nothing like it. It's an absolute trip. Then we have two versions again of Sgt. Pepper, the original from the O'Grady collection, and I think it's still got the original cards in there. I might be wrong. No, it hasn't, I don't think. So Sgt. Pepper, nothing new can be said about this album. Absolute essential listening. And a modern copy, which is mine, and I can't remember where I got this, but I think it's got the cards and stuff in it. It should have anyway. Obviously it's reproduced, but yeah, I love this version as well. Then the formerly white album from the O'Grady collection again. I was very lucky, wasn't I, with my father-in-law, very cool man, letting me have so much of his collection. But yeah, this is number 031328, whatever that means. But yeah, they were all embossed with a number, and if you look very carefully, embossed Beatles there as well, but the rest was all white. Then one without a cover from the O'Grady collection. Don't know what happened to the cover of this one, but it's Magical Mystery Tour. And it's, I love this album. It's from the O'Grady collection again. It's got loads of crayon daubed on it, so I'm guessing this was one that my wife and her siblings got hold of when they were little and daubed all over. Then we have, I always put it in this order, Let It Be, because they recorded it first. I know it was released after Abbey Road, but I always consider it as their penultimate album. Not one of my favourite Beatles albums, but it does grow on me each time I listen to it. And I really like the Let It Be Naked version as well, which is the less produced version. My favourite on this would be Two of Us. Absolutely adore that song. So that's Let It Be. And finally, a reproduction of Abbey Road. Probably my second favourite Beatles album. Again, there's no song on here that is wasted. I love the way that they put all their half-finished songs together and make it into the most beautiful medley at the end on side 2. But yeah, favourite song, I couldn't pick one on here, to be honest. I love Something, and I love I Want You, She's So Heavy as well. Then I'm never quite sure where to put this one. I tend to put live ones at the end of live ones and best ofs at the end of each artist's collection. So that's what I've done here. This is the Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl. I got this for, I think it was £8 at the local market, and it's I don't listen to it very often because you can totally hear all the screams of the Beatlemania going on. It's at that sort of time, around Shea Stadium time. And it's very difficult to hear the music over all the screams, so you can tell why they stopped playing live when you listen to this. But it's a great piece of history to listen to really get that Beatlemania idea. Then we are into another artist that I'd really like to get all of her collection eventually. Bjork. I absolutely adore Bjork, have done since I heard this album. I hadn't heard the Sugar Cubes before that, but I have gone back afterwards and listened to them and love them as well. But yeah, this is Debut, the first album I listened to by her, and I was blown away. It was one of those artists, a bit like Black Sabbath, who, when I first heard them, I thought, what is this? I don't know if I like it or not. It's just so captivating. And I was hooked ever since. So yeah, I've been a huge Bjork fan ever since. So that is Debut. Just punch himself in the nose with it. Then we have Post. Another interesting album where she goes very dancey on this one, even more than on Debut. Then possibly my favourite Bjork album, Vespertine. I had this on CD to begin with and had to get the vinyl copy, double vinyl, and this is one of those albums where I couldn't pick any particular song. It's more of an overall feeling that you get from this album when you listen to it. It's so gentle but powerful. Vespertine is something where it is celebrating the carrier of something special, and this was recorded when Bjork was pregnant. And what I love about this as well is that every song she uses these really small sounds, amplifies these really small sounds, like the sound of feet in snow, or the sound of a heartbeat, and really amplifies them and makes them bigger and special and shines a light on it. And that's such a wonderful idea for an album that's about pregnancy. So yeah, love that one. No more Bjork ones yet. I really, really want to get all of them eventually. Then we're on to, I was talked about them before, Black Sabbath, the Debut. I need to get a lot more of these, especially the first 4 or 5 albums of Black Sabbath are absolute essential listening. And probably the best, most atmospheric opening tune to any record I own. So yeah, Black Sabbath. Bit of Blondie, Parallel Lines, another essential album that any collection I think needs. One that possibly doesn't need in every collection, Bomb the Bass by Mega Blast by Bomb the Bass. I was a huge fan of the Atari ST growing up, and I used to play Xenon 2, which this was the theme tune for. That's a 12-inch single, I think. Then we're into another artist who I desperately want to get every single album that he's done. I'm talking about David Bowie, and we have Space Oddity. I'll start getting a bit quicker with these. Man Who Sold the World. I'd love to get the original cover of this where he's in a dress. This is I think the American cover or the re-release cover. Still really cool photo, but I'd like to get the original. Honky Dory, when he really started to take off. Every song on this is amazing. Talking of amazing, we have, very shiny, Ziggy Stardust, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, to give it its full title. This is the one that really got me into Bowie as a teenager. I was a huge Bowie fan as a kid because of Labyrinth, one of my favourite films of all time, that I was obsessed with when I was about 7 or 8 years old. But when I was a teenager, I got back into Bowie in a backwards kind of way, from listening to punk and then listening to their influences like the Velvet Underground and the Stooges and of course David Bowie, and never been able to put this down since. Then we have Ziggy in America, as it's often called, Aladdin Sane. One of my least favourite of Bowie's albums, but still a lot of fun, Pin-Ups, that's his covers album. One of the most underrated Bowie albums in my opinion, Diamond Dogs. Original copy, and this I listened to a lot. This is a great album. It was originally supposed to be a musical of 1984, but he couldn't get the permission from the Orwell estate, but he made it into a dystopian musical anyway, and that on paper should make me not like this, but it's so well done. It's definitely worth picking up. Young Americans, his Plastic Soul era. Station to Station, this is a reproduction, but a good one. Love Station to Station. This is he was so heavily into drugs at the time that Bowie can't actually remember making this album, which is a real shame because it's one of his best. Then, talking of best, this is an album that I will, is in my top 3 at least, Low by Bowie. When my friend first introduced me to this, I thought I was very much a teenage punk and thinking, oh, I can't listen to all this, it's far too pretentious. But when you realise that this album is a recovery album, when he's trying to get over his drug addiction, find himself again and put the pieces back together, and you listen to it with that in mind, it becomes a really healing album. I'm sounding pretentious now, but yeah, you can't get any better than Low. Absolutely love it. Heroes, often cited as one of his best albums. I don't like this one as much as Low, but I still like it. This one, the last of the Berlin trilogy, Lodger. A lot of people don't like this one as much. I love it. I think it's the first time that Bowie, there we go, to give it its full, it's the first time that Bowie starts to sound like the people he has influenced. So there's a lot of sort of Talking Heads kind of style and new wave and things like that. Then we have Stage, his live album from around that time, which has songs from his earlier stuff, but also it's really nice to hear live versions of some of his Berlin instrumental songs, which you don't often get. So yeah, that's Stage, that's a double album, yeah. Scary Monsters and Super Creeps, one of those albums that I didn't originally like and has grown on me more and more each time that I listen to it. Let's Dance. Not all the fans like this. I absolutely love it from beginning to end. Unlike this one tonight, which is kind of like a Let's Dance 2 and isn't half as good, but does have some good songs on it. It's got some good Iggy Pop pen songs on there. Then, oh my goodness, my favourite probably of the 2000s. Heathen is absolute essential absolute essential listening, and I don't think enough people enough Bowie fans give this enough kudos. There isn't a bad song on this, and I love it to bits. So that's all the Bowie I've got at the moment. There's loads that are missing that I really want to get hold of, so hopefully in a future video I'll have those. Then we have Billy Bragg. Love Billy Bragg. This is the Peel Sessions, which is just him and the guitar, which is, there's something about Billy Bragg and just a guitar and a voice that works so well. Another artist that I really want to get the whole collection of, Kate Bush. I'm obsessed with Kate Bush in the same way that I'm obsessed with Bjork. Thank you. So yeah, I do want to get all of these when I can. So we have the Kick Inside. I hope I've got these in the right order. Lionheart. One of my favourites, Hounds of Love. Especially the song Hello Earth, which is one of the most beautiful things she's ever written so far. And, talking of beautiful, Ariel. This is the album. I was very late getting into Kate Bush. I used to think of her more as, the more theatrical and not as intimate as... but then I found that listening to her albums from the 90s and noughties, they are so intimate, so heartfelt. And I've loved her ever since. And this was the one that did it for me. 2005's Ariel double album. Sunset from this album is possibly my favourite Kate Bush song, along with Hello Earth. Then we have the Buzzcocks, the Mighty Buzzcocks, with Another Music in a Different Kitchen. I had to read that just to make sure I got it right. Quintessential Buzzcocks there. Then we have one of my favourite John Cale albums, Slow Dazzle. You're getting a Slow Dazzle there, aren't you? Slow Dazzle. Really like his mid-70s Island albums. If you haven't checked out John Cale's solo work, it's very diverse, lots of soundtracks and things like that. But if you listen to Fear and Slow Dazzle, it's him at his songwriting best. And Vintage Violence as well, his first album, which I don't have yet. Then we have a couple of singles from the bands that probably got me into punk, indie, etc. In the first place, Carter, the Unstoppable Sex Machine, and we have Do Re Mi, So Far So Good, and Lean On Me, I Won't Fall Over, which kids of a certain age like myself will recognise these as Weebles, that are toys that we used to play with. I certainly did. Then we have another recent acquisition, Tracy Chapman. This was donated to me by Di from work again, so thank you so much, Di. I used to have this on tape and listen to it religiously in my early teen years. So yeah, definitely worth a listen, that one. Then we're into another band I'd like to eventually finish their collection, The Clash, and I've only got Give 'Em Enough Rope, which is not always said to be their best, but I absolutely love it. And you've got songs like Safe European Home, English Civil War, Tommy Gun, every song pretty much. All the Young Punks is a good one. Guns, yeah, brilliant album. But yeah, I definitely need to get London Calling and their debut as well. Then we're into another artist that I want to complete. You can see why my vinyl collection's getting full so quickly. Elvis Costello, one of my favourite singer-songwriters of all time. We have his original debut, My Aim Is True. The one where it really started for him, This Year's Model. His R&B album, Get Happy. One of my favourites that doesn't get enough kudos, Trust. Imperial Bedroom. Another criminally underrated album. He's not a big fan of this, but it's one of my favourites, Punch the Clock. Goodbye Cruel World. I think I got these in the right order. Blood and Chocolate. Fantastic album, this one. And I've got it on white vinyl. It's sad that it's not on red vinyl, really, or brown. It should, with Blood and Chocolate as a name. I don't know why they went for white, but great album. Another great album, King of America, which I think is a solo one, isn't it? I think that's his first solo one. I don't know if the Attraction's on that. I need to check on that. Spike. Many of the songs, well, some of the songs on this were co-written with Paul McCartney. That's it for Costello. But yeah, he's got so many albums and I need to get them all. Then we have my one and only Cure album. I desperately need to get more Cure albums, but I've got their first one here, that just called The Cure. Then we have Doctor Who, and this Tomb of the Cybermen, probably my favourite Doctor Who episode of all time, and this is a recording on silver vinyl. And I got this, I think this was on Record Store Day, really like this. I did a separate video on this actually, which I'll try and put a card up here somewhere for. And we carry on with the D's with one of my favourite local bands from around the Cheshire, Staffordshire area, Don't Call Me Ishmael, with their album Saint Ishmael, which is probably my favourite of their albums, although every single album they've done has been amazing. We have Nick Drake with Pink Moon. I'd love to get his debut, and Brighter Late. I can't remember the name of the other one, but yeah, I'd love to get all of Nick Drake's when I can. Ian Jury, U-Boats and Panties, essential pre-punk sort of pub rock album. Very clever lyrics. Really inspirational guy, Ian Jury. Check him out if you haven't heard his stuff before, which I'm sure you have. Then we have Bob Dylan, which is someone that I've always loved the people inspired by Bob Dylan, like Loudon Wainwright, Paul Simon, people like that. But Dylan I've only got into in the last few years, believe it or not. I've always liked his music, but not enough to necessarily get his albums. But this one was from the O'Grady collection, Another Side of Bob Dylan. Bringing it all home. And then into my own bought collection, we have my favourite Bob Dylan album, Blood on the Tracks, which is a reissue. My most latest acquisition, Street Legal. Absolutely love this. It's very Bruce Springsteen, actually. I know obviously Bruce Springsteen came after Dylan, but yeah, the two merge in this one. I think it's much more big and rocky sounding. Definitely worth picking up that one. Then I have to trade in my punk card because I have an album from the Beatles, from the Eagles, and I actually love this, and it is Hotel California. Electronic music, very strange album full of electrical sound effects, and one of those great sort of 60s inventive albums full of electronic music and electronic sound. I think music's probably pushing it a bit. Then we have Mac the Knife, Ella Fitzgerald live in Berlin, including probably my favourite performance of all time, her version of Mac the Knife, which if I'm ever having a particularly down day, I will listen to that and it will restore my faith in humanity. Because I don't even particularly like the song Mac the Knife, but what I love about this version is that she goes completely wrong. She forgets all the lyrics, starts making them up herself, and makes it into something completely her own. And even manages to do the best Louis Armstrong impression I think I've ever heard on a song. So yeah, it just for that it's worth it. But the rest of the album is amazing too. Then we have another band I'd like to get a lot more of, Fleetwood Mac. And I've broken the rules completely of my collection here. I've put the greatest hits at the beginning. And the reason being that this is the best of the Peter Green years, which is a very different Fleetwood Mac to what they would do later. And yeah, this is essential listening. Then we have, of course, should be in everyone's collection, this one, Rumours. I'd like to get Fleetwood Mac as well, the one before that with Rhiannon and things in. Then we have a much underrated album, Tusk, which came after Rumours, which is probably why it's so underrated. But unfortunately, I only have the first disc out of two. I have no idea why they didn't put them together, but this is the only one I could find. But this first disc has most of my favourites on it anyway, but both discs are incredible. Then we're into Peter Gabriel. And Peter Gabriel 3, I think it is, often called Melt because of his melting face on the art cover. I adore Lead a Normal Life on this, one of my favourite songs by him. Then we have So, another very popular one of Peter Gabriel's, which has songs like Red Rain, Sledgehammer, Don't Give Up, Mercy Street, In Your Eyes. Pretty much every song on that is a hit. Then we have another one of my all-time favourite albums, What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. I love it so much, in fact, that even though this is a reproduction, I have it in one of my safest of these vinyl sleeves because I love it so much. What I love about this album, amongst everything else, is that how it works as an entire experience. Every song kind of runs into the next one, and even the end song runs into the first, so you can flip it over and it carries on, which I love that. But yeah, it's one of the best soul albums of all time. Crucial in that he moved away from love songs to more political songs in this, and yeah, if you haven't listened to this, you really need to. So if you listen to any album from this collection, make it this one. Then we have his greatest hits, missing the cover for some reason. Then we're into George Harrison, probably my favourite of the Beatles, and we have The Material World, Living in the Material World. Excellent album. I really want to get All Things Must Pass, but it's so expensive. And then another one of George's best, On Cloud 9 rather, by ELO's Jeff Lynne, of course. Has that great Jeff Lynne sound. Then we have another soundtrack, High Society. Much prefer the soundtrack to the actual film, to be honest. Classy, very classy, this album. Talking of classy, we have Billie Holiday with her album Lady in Satin. Even if you aren't into jazz music, you have to check this out. Just let the cat in. Hello. Even if you're not into jazz music, you have to listen to this. This is quite a heartbreaking album in a way, because she's definitely down on her luck in this. You can hear the ravages of time and drugs on her voice in this, but something about that makes it even more compelling. So yeah, you must listen to Lady in Satin. And we have first of the classical bits of music, Holst with The Planets. If you haven't heard this before, you'll definitely hear shades of John Williams in this. Very filmic. Bert Jansch, one of my favourite singer-songwriters, with his album Nicola. That's definitely an artist that I want to get more of in the future. Then a great Dutch band that I played with at the Cavern, of all places, with their album A Tenor, which they gave to me for free. Very kind of them. Great album as well, sort of pop punk. Another one of my favourite singer-songwriters, Janice Ian, love to get more by her. This is Between the Lines. Incredible album when you think that it was created when she was about 17, 18. Incredible album, and like most amazing things, most amazing culture in the world, it was introduced to me by The Simpsons, of course. James Gang, Rise Again. Great killer psychedelic rock band. Jean-Michel Jarre, with my favourite of his albums, Equinox. I could listen to this on repeat forever. Then we're into Joy Division with their album Unknown Pleasures and their album Closer. Is it Closer? Yeah, it is Closer. Kid Creole and the Coconuts, album I absolutely loved as a kid. Another of my favourite local bands, The King's Pistol, their album Evil Spirits, which is superb. And their, I think it's a long EP, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 songs. It's almost an album. Rip It Up. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Then another 12-inch dance song, Left Field and Leiden with Open Up. Then we're into the Macca. I don't think John Lennon would like to be in my collection next to Macca, but there we are, he is. McCartney 1, very, very amazing debut, that one. Totally self-made. Ram, probably his best album in my opinion. That one or Flamin' Pie, I'm not sure which would be my favourite. Then we have Wings with Wildlife. Venus and Mars. Red Rose Speedway. Wings Across America. Great 3 album, live album. McCartney 2. Haven't heard McCartney 3 yet, I need to check that out. And then we're into Madness with their album One Step Beyond. Another of my favourite local bands who are unfortunately no more, the Madding Crowd, but there's another great band that has risen from the ashes of the Madding Crowd called The Battery Farm, which you have to check out if you get a chance, but this is one of their EPs on, is that 10 inch? 10 inch I think. Bob Marley live at the Rainbow. Then we're into another of my favourite singer-songwriters, Jonathan Richman, and his band The Modern Lovers. The Modern Lovers live. Oh, I need to get more of this. If that's all I've got, I need to get much more. Then we have Monty Python, Monty Python's Flying Circus. Moody Blues, Days of Future Past, brilliant album. On the Threshold of a Dream by Moody Blues. In Search of the Lost Chord. To Our Children's Children. Quite a lot of Moody Blues, isn't there? Seventh Sojourn. I think I've got these in order. And one of my favourite kind of side projects ever, the Blue Jays, Justin Hayward and John Lodge from the Moody Blues. Absolutely adore this album. Then some albums that I learnt as a kid. I could recite, and I can still recite every single line from it. The Muppet Showcast album. And what's better than the Muppet Showcast album? The Muppet Showcast album too. And the Muppets Take Manhattan. Whew. If you're still with me, I congratulate you. We are into the ends now with New Order's first album, Movement. One of my favourite bands growing up and still now, Nirvana. I'd love to have Bleach. That's the only one I haven't got by them of their official albums. There's Nevermind, In Utero, and possibly my favourite live album, along with that Ella one, Unplugged in New York. One of my dad's album collection that I totally nicked off him, Tom Paxton, Ramblin' Boy. Another from the O'Grady collection, Pentangle, Basket of Light, featuring Bert Jansch, who I was talking about before. Then we're into Pink Floyd with Medal. And no idea what this one's called. You might have heard of it. And lastly, Division Bell. Great double album on blue vinyl, which is very nice. Iggy and the Stooges, just to get a little bit of my punk respect back. Raw Power. An album I've had for years and years on tape and on CD, but never on vinyl until recently. And that is Dummy by Portishead. Then we're into the Queen. I would love to get all of their albums. Another band that I'd love to get all of their collection if I can. Start off with Queen 1. Can you guess what comes next? Queen 2. Not Queen 3, but Sheer Heart Attack. One of their best albums. Another of their best albums, News of the World. With that cover, if you're a Family Guy fan, you'll recognise that cover. Don't get nightmares. Canon Magic, the album that introduced me to Queen in the first place. I was probably about 6. I've been a huge fan ever since. Live Magic. I also have Flash somewhere as well. I think that's up in the loft. And then we have, talking of classic albums, the Bumper Rainbow album with Catherine written at the top, who is my sister. Queens of the Stone Age. So that's the wrong way around, isn't it? It should go Queens of the Stone Age. And then Rainbow. Yeah. Hope that didn't impinge on your viewing pleasure. Then we have a band that I have completed now. Radiohead, one of my favourite bands of all time. Pablo Honey, very underrated album if you ask me. The Bends. OK Computer. Kid A, incredible album. Not so incredible, but also brilliant. Amnesiac. Hail to the Thief. In Rainbows. King of Limbs. And their superb latest one, Moon Shaped Pool. We have Rage Against the Machine with their debut. Lou Reed with Transformer. I'd love to get his debut as well, it's really good. Berlin. And then another band I would like to get a lot more of, I'd like to complete at some point, but there's so many of them. R.E.M. with Reckoning. And Green. Those are the only two I've got at the moment. I desperately need to get more. Then one of my wife's amazing collection, Rock and Roll Disco. The Rolling Stones with big hits, High Tide and Green Grass original. Then another band I have completed, Roxy Music. Superb band, doesn't get half the credit they deserve. And here is their debut, called Roxy Music. For Your Pleasure. Stranded. Country Life. Got two of this for some reason. I've got a modern version of Siren. This is a great one to start with. If you've never heard any Roxy Music, start with this one, because I always think it's a great bridge album between their more experimental beginnings and their more kind of dreamy, atmospheric later years. So yeah, definitely listen to that one if you haven't heard any Roxy Music. And as a Brucey bonus, there's the original. Manifesto. They try out lots of different things on this, including punk, disco, etc. But and is much maligned as a result, but I really like that album. Flesh and Blood, probably their worst album, but still very good, which shows you how good the band are. And an album I absolutely adore, Avalon, which is another of those that's an experience from beginning to end. Then, talking of experiences from beginning to end, Sesame Street Fever. Then the Sex Pistols with Nevermind the Bollocks. Buzzcocks Pete Shelley with his album XL1, which is a superb electronica album. Then we are on to my all-time favourite singer-songwriter of all time, Paul Simon. I've got quite a few of his albums, but so many I want to get, so hopefully when I whittle things down I'll be able to fit more in. We have the Paul Simon Songbook, The Sounds of Silence, Bookends, and finishing off the Simon & Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water. Then on to the Paul Simon solo albums, we have one of my all-time favourites, Paul Simon, by Paul Simon. There Goes Rhymin' Simon, terrible name for an album, but brilliant album nonetheless. And Live Rhymin', which is a live album from around that time. Still Crazy After All These Years. The very underrated One Trick Pony, soundtrack to his film, which is definitely worth a watch if you like Paul Simon. Hearts and Bones, another criminally underrated album. Then his kind of resurgence into the mainstream with Graceland. Probably my favourite Paul Simon album of all time, Rhythm of the Saints. And that's it. I'd love to get You're the One is one of my favourite Paul Simon albums that I don't have, so I'd really like to get that. Then into another band that I really want to complete, which is Susie and the Banshees, Scream. I don't have Join Hands, that's got to be my next purchase. And then the third one, very underrated, Kaleidoscope. Love that album. Then one of their best, Kaleidoscope. No, it's not Kaleidoscope. That was the last one. Juju. A Kiss in the Dream House. A 12-inch version of Fireworks. Tinderbox, incredible album. And one of the most underrated, The Rapture, their swan song. What an album this is. Really orchestral with John Cale producing. Then we're on to another one of my favourite bands, The Smiths. I only have 2 of theirs. I really need to get some more. We have Hatful of Hollow. Original copy, really beat up, all ripped and water damaged and all sorts. I was given that by a friend of mine, so I was not going to complain, but I do need to get a better copy at some point. Reproduction of The Queen is Dead, probably their most famous album. Then on to the specials. We have the specials and more specials. Then another classic from the Lucy Lee collection. We have Stardust, the soundtrack. There are such good things as Ringo Starr solo albums, and this is one of them, Ringo. The Return of the Jedi soundtrack. First film I ever went to see at the cinema. Talking Heads, great band with Remain in Light, one of my favourite of their albums. And True Stories, another one of their great albums as well. Another classical one, Tchaikovsky, with Symphony No. 6, Pathétique. Every emotion available in that incredible work. Then we have one of my newest acquisitions, Tears for Fears, Songs from the Big Chair. Again, another album that is brilliant from beginning to end, as well as this one, which is also brilliant from beginning to end, Marquee Moon by Television. Thin Lizzy, Jailbreak. I'd like to get more of theirs. I really like Thin Lizzy. And Live and Dangerous, another superb live album. We have No Strings Attached, Thunderbirds. Really like the, look at that. I think it's my one and only picture disc. Picture discs tend to sound terrible, and this is no exception, but the music on it by Barry Gray is, the Barry Gray Orchestra is superb. Then another soundtrack, 2001 Space Odyssey. Really underrated album, UB40's debut, Signing Off. Not a big fan of their later stuff, but I'm going to sound very pretentious now, but their early stuff is definitely worth checking out if you like dub and reggae. One of my dad's favourite albums, UFO 1. My introduction to heavy metal, that one, and loved it ever since. U2 with the Joshua Tree. I think I got this for like £5 or something, and it's original as well. Very chuffed with that. What an album that is. Then we have another of my favourite bands, which I've nearly completed, the Velvet Underground. So we have the Velvet Underground and Nico. Got this from Edinburgh, that one. From a very, very nice but very scary Glaswegian. White Light, White Heat. The only one I'm missing is their self-titled one, which is probably my favourite Velvet Underground album. The one just called Velvet Underground. Really need to get that one. And Loaded. A live Velvet Underground album. Velvet Underground live with Lou Reed, so you can tell that he'd left at that point because they were making a thing of it. Then we have another of my favourite singer-songwriters. I only have this album, Loudon Wainwright III, his debut. Love to get Little Ship, I think, is the one I'm really looking for from him. War of the Worlds. Everything about this, if this was on paper, someone said to me, right, it's a classic novel, science fiction, and we've set it to disco prog with David Essex. What do you think? I would hate it automatically, but thankfully I heard this when I was too young to be pretentious or even to know what pretentiousness was, so I automatically loved it. Very scary when we've got the lights off on a Halloween or something. Then we have Who's Next? One of those albums that if I had a massive cabinet of speakers, this would be the first thing I would play on it, for sure. We're nearly there, peeps. Stevie Wonder, another of my favourite singer-songwriters. Talking Book. My favourite of his albums, Inner Visions. Beautiful album. Fulfillingness's first finale. It's a tongue twister. Songs in the Key of Life, classic Stevie Wonder album. And a one that I think is much underrated, which is Hotter Than July. And we have one that I would love to get all of his collection, but there's a mighty amount of albums to get. It's Neil Young. Oh, before we even get to Neil Young though, we have another absolute classic of my wife's collection, the Yetis. Having a Party with the Yetis. This always comes out whenever her in-laws come over. My in-laws, her parents, come over. We always have to put this on. It's needs to be heard to be believed. Then we have Neil Young, yes, with After the Gold Rush. I think these might be out of order, so apologies, Neil Young fans. Harvest. On the Beach. One of my favourites that doesn't get talked about enough, Zuma. And Rust Never Sleeps, brilliant. Half live, half not album. So, oh my goodness, that is all of my 12-inch LPs. I hope you enjoyed that. If you are still stuck around, grab yourself another brew because I'm now going to try and go through all my 45s and 75s. So don't go anywhere, apart from to maybe get yourself a brew, and I will see you again in a moment. And as I promised, as a bit of a bonus, here is my collection of 45s. I don't have a huge collection, but you might like some of these, you never know. I have Booker T and the MGs with Green Onions. The Cars with Drive. Lazy Sunday by the Small Faces, of course. He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother by the Hollies. Completely labelless. That is Joy Division with The Only Mistake and Atmosphere. I Can Dance by the Tremolos. Spitting Image with the Chicken Song, classic. I Ain't A Gonna Wash for a Week by the Brooks Brothers. Poison Ivy by the Paramounts. Shaking All Over by Johnny Kidd and the Pirates. Whiter Shade of Pale by Procol Harum. Paperback Writer with Rain on it by the Beatles. I Say Little Prayer, Aretha Franklin. During the Blockheads Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick, 91 version. Ooh. Blank. Roadrunner by the Modern Lovers. That's What Love Will Do by Joe Brown. The Stranger by the Shadows. Stretching Out by Dwayne Eddy. My first ever single that I bought, 5-star with Rain or Shine. The Orville Song. From the sublime to the ridiculous, these, aren't they? Return to Sender by Elvis Presley. Wishing Well by Free. I think this is Elvis Costello, is it? Yeah, Elvis Costello with I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea and You Belong to Me. Another Shadows one, Kon-Tiki and 362436. A Little of What You Fancy, Does You Good by Alfred Lynch. A lot of these are from my dad's collection, as you can tell, very 60s. This one is one of Lucy's actually, and it's a flexi disc from Tizer. And it's superb. Venus by Dickie Valentine. I Just Don't Know What to Do With Myself by Dusty Springfield. Apologies if these keep going in and out and focus. Simon and Garfunkel with Mrs. Robinson. Oh yes, Scott and Charlene with Suddenly. The Beatles Hits, which has From Me to You, Thank You Girl, Please Please Me and Love Me Do on it. Tears of a Clown, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. Another copy of My Baby Just Cares For Me by Nina Simone. It is a great song. Telstar by the Tornadoes. Jackie Wilson with Reet Petite. Baker Street, Jerry Rafferty. Anyone Who Ever Had a Heart by Cilla Black. And Slippin' and Slidin' by Buddy Holly. Don't know why they're in the same one. It's Not Unusual by Tom Jones. Bobby Darin with Things. Make Me Smile, Come Up and See Me, Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel. Day Tripper by the Beatles. What's on the other side of that one? We Can Work It Out. David Bowie with The Man Who Sold the World. The MASH theme with a big chunk missing out of it. Wings with a Little Luck. It's Time for Love by the She Lights. Do They Know It's Christmas? Reward by the Teardrop Explodes. Walking Back to Happiness by Helen Shapiro. Lots of really good 60s ones here. Carrie Ann by the Hollies. Hey Carrie Ann. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Bryan Adams EP. There we are, 5-star with a big chunk missing out of it. That was obviously well loved. Chiquitita by ABBA. Rebel Rouser by Dwayne Eddy. Julie Andrews with I Feel Pretty. And Johnny Mathis with Maria. So yeah, one from my favourite musical of all time, West Side Story. The Clash with Tommy Gunn. Voodoo Child's Slight Return by Jimi Hendrix. Definitely keeping that one. Cabaret by Louis Armstrong. Mona Lisa by Conway Twitty. Brilliant. Running Scared by Roy Orbison. You Belong to Me by Jim Reeves. To Love Somebody by Nina Simone. Another It's Not Unusual by Tom Jones. Don't know why I've got 2 copies of that. Summer Holiday by Cliff Richard and the Shadows. Roxy Music with Angel Eyes. Pilltown Rides Again by the Pilldown Men. Don't think I've even heard that one. Dwayne Eddy with Theme from Dixie and The Battle. Benny Hill with Bamba 3688 and The Harvest of Love. And Goodness Gracious Me by Peter Sellers. Different times. Then we have Shadows to the Fore, which is a EP, I think. Doctor Who 50th Anniversary Edition by Ray Cathode. I like it. Shakin' Stevens with Green Door. Wings at the Speed of Sound with Silly Love Songs and Cook of the House. One that I loved as a kid, Shakespeare's Sister with Hello. Another version of the Doctor Who theme. Susie and the Banshees with Hong Kong Garden. It also has Voices, which is a great B-side on the other side. Long Tall Sally and Tutti Frutti, is it? Yeah, Tutti Frutti by Little Richard. Picture This by Blondie. Gary Gilmore's Eyes by The Adverts and Bored Teenagers as the B-side. A New England, Kirsty MacColl. Golden Brown by The Stranglers. Dear Lady Twist by Gary Bond. Gary US Bonds, great song. My Baby Just Cares For Me by Nina Simone. God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols with Did You Know Wrong, love that song, as the B-side. White Light, White Heat by David Bowie from his live album. Susie and the Banshees with Dazzle and I Promise. Apache by the Shadows. My dad was a huge Shadows fan. All My Lovin' by the Beatles, from With the Beatles, same cover there. A Kind of Magic and A Dozen Red Roses for My Darling from the film Highlander by Queen. I Will Follow by U2 and I Will Follow, Gloria on the other side. Yazoo with Don't Go and Winter Kills, another amazing B-side, Winter Kills, if you've not heard that. The Stranglers with Always the Sun. Every Loser Wins by Nick Berry from EastEnders. C&C Music Factory, used to love these as a kid. Here We Go and Here We Go Again. Another copy of Green Onions. The Bell Notes with She Went That Away. Stevie Wonder with Master Blaster. And finally, the Time Lord's Doctor in the TARDIS. And now on to my very small 78s collection. We have My Prayer by the Platters. Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea by Bob Crosby and his orchestra. We have A Very Broken I Cover the Waterfront. We have Gracie Fields, When I Grow Up Too Old to Dream. Very broken as well. It's the problem with 78s. We have the Not Broken, Don't You Think I Ought to Know, and My Happiness by Ella Fitzgerald. That's probably my favourite 78, I would say. Another Ella Fitzgerald 78, The Swinging Shepherd Blues and Midnight Sun. Oh, don't you just love look at that, 78. Even the sleeve is classy. This is In the Mood Foxtrot and Outer Space Foxtrot. And last but by no means least, we have Miles Davis and his orchestra with Chance It on one side and Yesterday on the other. And that's it. If you made it that far, then I congratulate you. I hope you enjoyed looking through my record collection. And yeah, if you like this sort of thing, I will hopefully be making some slightly less epic vinyl videos in the future. So please do consider liking, subscribing, or maybe even sharing with a friend. Thanks very much and take care.